Okie dokie, so this is my apron. You can use it as a garden apron, you can use it as a sewing apron, you can use it as a cooking apron, and what I've done is I've just used old jeans, obviously, cut out pockets, joined fabric, added a patch, used my waistband for around my shoulder, and then I've used the waistband for around the back. I've joined on one of the old jeans, random, so you just add your little jeans buckles and buttons. If you want to tighten it, you go to that one. If you want to loosen it, you go to that one, depending on what you've eaten or what you're doing. And you can, this is clever, when you do your pocket and you cut your pocket out, you end up with two pockets. So I can have something in the back and I can have something in the front. It's very, very handy. So yeah, it's really cool. So neat gift. So I decided, because I was making these, that I would make some for the Grandies for Christmas, because some of them love building, some of them love gardening, some of them love cooking, and you can relate them to the kids. So this is the pattern on page 29 of your book, and the patterns are in the book. So when you go to find the pattern, you might think it is really, really daunting. But on the edge of each pattern, there are numbers. So there are numbers here, and you just go down and find the number and trace your pattern out. So it's actually really easy. They've all got the seam allowances on them. So I have traced out my pattern, even though you don't really need a pattern for an apron, but it's quite handy to have it. So I've traced out the pattern, and I didn't have enough tracing violins, so I just added a piece on and I sewed it together. So that is now my base pattern for my apron. So one of my daughters loved it and said, can you make me a dress like that? So I will add a little back part and make a little dress. So it'd be quite cute for summer. So yeah, so they thought they were really cool. So that's how I did the pattern. The thread you're going to use, remember we made these cool bags? The thread that I use is, I use this extra strong thread. Now, this one here, sorry, not that one. The reason why I like this thread is because I can triple stitch with it, because it's not too thick. And also it comes in some really cool colors and it's nice and thick. When you use this thread, you need to use a thicker needle. So when I use this, I use a 90 needle, either a jeans denim or a top stitch needle. Okay? The next thing you do, you want to find some old jeans or old skirts or whatever and start cutting. So I just got given these ones, and this was an old skirt of mine. So this can be all chopped up. That was my painting skirt. Might keep that as a painting skirt actually. It's quite handy. But what you do is these are cool. You find a pocket you like. You cut the waistband off first, so that you're not going to be wasting that, because you're going to use that. So the first thing is cut the tags, get a really good sharp pair of scissors, cut the tags off, because you do not want to waste those. And you're going to cut this, watch the zip at the end, you're going to cut this right back. You do not need to leave a seam allowance, because jeans are made really, really strong, so you do not need to have a seam allowance, because I'm going to re-stitch this on and I don't need to worry about having a seam allowance. The best thing of all is you can pick up jeans for $2 and $5 from the op shop, and you can sew till your heart's content. You can make bags, you can make, I'm going to do some Christmas stockings. I found a piece of fur that maybe some children have been doing some drawing on or something, but it'll make a really cool stocking. So that's going to go on the top of the stocking. I'm just going to make it out of jeans. And I feel it's going to probably go down to the kids on the farm, so they can put some something in there for all their animals. So they can wrap up something for their cats and dogs and whatever the kids want to do. That'll be quite a cute little thing to do for them. So I'll make quite a big stocking, but I'll just use that around the top. And that will determine the size of the stocking. So see, I have reused that. Before I do anything else, I'm going to sew those back on so they can be used as a loop here. So if I want to hook something over there, I can, okay? Then I'm going to cut my pocket out. Now I might want to use this bit, so I'm going to be clever and I'm going to go down there and then I'm going to go across. Now you're going to cut this straight back. You're not going to leave a seam allowance. Straight down and straight down and straight across and straight up. Now I've got a pocket, but actually I've got two pockets. I have that pocket, and when I sew it on, I have that pocket. Oh, that pocket. So you have one at the front and one at the back. The next thing you want to do, so keep all of these. The next thing you want to do is you want to cut some of this fabric. Well, this is a good size. Cut this fabric off to make an apron. So I'm just going to cut through those. And then you're going to cut down the seam here, and I'll use that nice big thick front bit. So I'm just going to cut down, I'll go this side, cut down my seam and open that up and see what I've got. So with my one I had to do a lot of joining because I didn't have all these jeans. Since then I've got a whole lot of jeans. So what I'll do with this one, I'll use that as the top of my apron, and I will put that pocket onto there like that, and then I will get another pair of jeans, some with a nice front. That was quite nice. I'll get another pair of jeans. I'll leave that one on there. Yeah, no, I won't. I'll cut that off. You've got to think what you're going to do. I'm trying to look at it, decide what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this off here. I'm going to cut this off here because I'm going to use that for something else. Because I'm going to add that other one onto this one. You can leave this on if you want, but I'm kind of doing kids ones now, so they need to be a bit smaller. So watch for the zip. I know the zip's right down, so you cut this off. And then cut this one down here. Something fun about cutting up jeans. I quite enjoy it, must admit. It's very forgiving. You don't have to, it's not hard. And then come across here. Get rid of all that. And do the same to this one. Come across there, about there. We'll trim it up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up here, right beside my seam. And I'm going to go right across there. And then, oops, I'm going to very carefully just cut up the seam here. So you just come up to here. Because what I want to do is I want that to sit flat and go like that. Perfect. So this will become my pockets. So this is going to be my bib part. How about we just cut an armhole? So you get the gist. An armhole about there. See, I just flip it over. That looks pretty good. You can have a lot of fun. There'll be fabric added to the side later on. Zip that up. Do not pull the zip end off. That will become my pockets. Now the next thing I do, make sure your pockets are flat, is I draw here and I actually stitch my pockets down. So I draw where I want to sew my pocket, and that makes your pocket here, like I've done on here. It makes that pocket, because sometimes the pockets are really deep and this would fall down, so I've just done some nice triple stitching on there. Then try and get it kind of even. Rough as enough. Okay, that one looks fatter. You could measure it, not going to. Now this is what I want to show you. When you're working with denim, there's some tools you will have that you don't even know how to use. One is called a height compensating tool. Okay, it's pieces of plastic. They come with your machine, or you can buy them for $8. If not, you have got a point turner. You will use this end and this end, because this is higher and this is lower, to do this job. Or some of you may have a jig. These come from America, and you can sew all the way up to here, or turn them around and sew backwards up to there. I've had these made by a young guy out of some leather, so I've actually got some at work if anyone's interested. They're really, really good. So I'm going to show you how you are going to stitch this without damaging your machine. So what happens is people go and just think, oh, I'm just going to sew that, and it's so thick that your machine doesn't like it. So some of you may have what's called a 1D foot. The 1D foot is just a straight sew stitch foot, okay? And it's really, really good for jeans because it goes over thicknesses really well. So I'm going to put that on. If you haven't got it, just use your ordinary foot. But the 1D does help if you're going to do a lot of this work. The next thing is I'm going to put in a jeans denim top. And I'm going to use a top stitch 90 because that's what I've got. And I'm just going to put that one in there. And this has a nice, strong, long eye. So it's got a longer eye. I'm not going to worry about changing my thread underneath. I'm just going to use my thick thread on top. Now remember, when you're using these machines, cut the thread here and pull it from the needle. These are really handy, by the way. Having these on here, they're really, really good. And by having this, I'm not going to stab myself with my scissors because it's lovely and thick. So now I've decided, I don't know if this will end up a boy or a girl one. I'll use the bright colour so you can see. And I'll pop that on. So this thread is wound evenly around. So if the thread is wound evenly around, it needs to go on this spool stand. If the thread is wound cross, it goes on this spool stand. Okay, there's something for nothing. So now make sure your foot is up and thread your machine. And yes, the needle threader will thread this thread. It's not too thick because I've got a nice big eye needle in. Okay. So when I'm doing this type of work, I'm only going to want to straight stitch this, but look at all that heavy, heavy bulk I've got. So I've got to be very careful how I do that so I do not damage my machine. I'll just take that off from, oh, I might as well pin that on while we're here. Pin that on. And this will be stitched with another bit of fabric, so we do these all now. And with children, and that can be top stitch, with children also, you might want to measure how long you want to make it, because you do not want the apron so long that it drags down too long for kids. So you need to probably measure their height, which I said I was going to do the other day and then I forgot, so I might just leave the hem till later. So this is now all ready to go. I can show you all my little tips and tricks just on all of these bits, and the pattern is in the book. So with this, I just get my little clips. Oh, don't damage my machine. Get my little clips. Dangerous. And put them onto here. And they can be stitched ready to go for where I decide to put that. Might be the waistband clip. So I just get everything ready and ready to roll. Right, so I'm going to use all these little tools I've got. So the first thing is I have got my jig. So what I mean by the height is my jig is the same height as the thickness of that fabric. So I'm not jig, sorry, my point turner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to put this behind the foot, and it's going to raise the foot up to the right height, so your machine is not going to labour trying to get up over that thickness. If you've got a jig, that is also good, but it's too thick for the side. So I don't use that today. If you've got your height compensating plates, you can lay these, if I go like that, you can see them. So it's the right height there, and for down here, I can put it down to 1. So now I'm going to show you why you do that, because that probably didn't make any sense. So here's your foot. You're ready to sew. You turn your work around, and when you get to here, if you just went like that, look at the foot. The foot's like this, and that's not going to be good. So what you do is you put something up behind it, get your thread like this, so that when you start sewing, your foot and your thickness of your fabric are at the same height. It's very intelligent. So I'm going to tell my machine, I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to, oh, you can have a look in the mirror if you like. I'm going to tell you my machine that I've got an 8D foot on, and all I do is go to 97D, and up here, I'm going to tell it I've got an 8 and I've got a D. Oh, I'll put my dual feed on. Can I use my dual feed with that foot? Don't know if I'll do that with what I'm doing. I think I'll just leave that, because that might hinder what I'm doing here by using my height compensating plate. So I've told the machine the right foot. Okay, I'm also going to use my height compensating tool. The reason why is I'm going to use my jig there, but down here I'm going to use my height compensating tool so my foot doesn't fall off the edge of my fabric like that. Okay, it's a thing. It works. And I'll probably only need 1 thickness of my tool, which is 1 piece of plastic. So the first thing I do is I lengthen my stitch length out, because you're never going to top stitch on denim with a short stitch length. So I've lengthened my stitch length out, and now I'm just going to sew and reverse. Now, as I sew, my foot is going to come down onto the lower. Excellent. So they do not like you stopping. So when you're doing things like this, it likes to keep on moving, and if it doesn't, have a look in the mirror, it does this. And my husband's going to be so pleased, because now I can tell you what to do. He's going like this. Move my head. Excellent. So you can see the cogs. So what do you do when you're at home? Further. Talk to me. Anyway, I'm turning my balance wheel and nothing is moving. So you never force anything. Okay? So what you do is you take out your bobbin and you take out your shuttle, and straight away the thread that was caught round that hook has unthreaded and everything's released. So good. So don't pull your work. Okay? Do not pull your work. The next thing I would do is I'd cut my thread and I'd actually rethread it just in case I needed to. So I pull it from here, put my shuttle back in, see if I've got it in the right place. It's very hard when you got this table on. It's all back. And then I put my bobbin back in. All right? I'm not sure what sign language Stephen was trying to tell me, but I don't think I understood it. We're going to have to get a board. I'm going to put my thread back in and I'm going to rethread. Now don't just start straight onto your garment, just do a bit of straight sewing and make sure everything's fine. Oh, put my needle down and back up. What have I done? Oh, I haven't got my shuttle in properly. Isn't it a clever machine? It's saying you haven't done that right. It's way too clever. Okay, there we go. And now I'll just put my shuttle back in and away we go. One moment, please. You really can't see under here. I'm going to take this off. Oh, there we go. Pop it in and you can hear it click, and then you just close it. It's so much easier when you can see. And then put your bobbin case in and then close the door and slide that back on. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat. Yep, and you're ready to go again. So when I do something like that, I always pull everything apart. I don't just keep sewing. And what I do is I get a scrap piece of fabric, so a piece of denim, and just do a row of stitching to make sure everything's fine before you go back onto your thick fabric. So back onto straight, so everything's back to normal, and make sure it's all sewing before you carry on. The most important thing is not to force your balance wheel, and to make sure you've tested it before you start sewing on your thick fabric again. Okay? So we'll just whip around here. I'll cut those bit of threads off. Love having my scissors right here. Yeah. I won't go unpicking it because I'll just sew over it. So remember your Gina-majig at the back. There. And your height compensating plate at the side. Okay? We'll try that again. Now, with the height compensating at the side, all it's doing is keeping the foot balanced and flat. So now you just go around here and just move it as you go. And down here. Now I may need the Gina-majig for this next part because I'm going through a whole thickness of a hem. So we'll just see how we go. We use this for the beginning. And then to here. Now I want to get two of these to go up so it's the same height as my seam coming up. And when I come down, I want two to come down. And then when I get to here, I can have one because now I'm flat again. Isn't it brilliant? So it's a really good tool. So when you come around to do this part, one more stitch, too far, one stitch. When you come to do this part, you just keep one, but when you come to the end, you use your not Gina-majig, beg your pardon, your point turner. So remember, now turn this one over and put it this way. And my point turner that I dropped, I will put it here, so I'm going to sew onto it, okay? So this comes to here, and then I come up to here. Isn't that brilliant? And that is how you sew on a very thick, heavy pocket. Okay, take those out of there. And as you can see, I have got two pockets, one here and one here. Now, all I do for this part is I put my machine onto triple straight stitch, put it nice and long, or you could put a zigzag and go triple zigzag, go nice and long, and I just simply slow. So it does 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. When you need to turn, lift with your knee control and turn, but don't just try and do all in a curve or else you might not end up with a nice result. And don't go fast. So you're going to do that to both sides. Stop and turn. So have some fun. You can do lots of fun stitching with this machine. You can do fancy stitching. You don't just have to do straight sew and zigzag. But remember to use your tools. That's what they are there for. It's good fun. So I'm just going to change and put a wider foot on and cut the thread. Now when you're doing these ones, I'll do this one first. When you're doing these, you want to use your, this was the thick part, this is the thinner part, and I'm going to put the thinner part in behind here for straight stitching these on, and I'm going to go back to straight stitching, and I'm just going to utilize that. And then when I come around here, I can finish it off, and that is how I did that part. So you will never look at your point turner the same again, because I've now found a brilliant use for the point turner, and it's made it so easy. That would have laboured going up and over that thickness, but by using your point turner, it has made the job easy. So the one other thing I want to show you before you go and have a play with this idea is I'm going to tell the machine I've got my normal one, I'll put my 1D on, put my dual feed on. Now what I can do is I can now do triple stitching. So if I want to make a feature on my jeans, I can now use my triple zigzag. So nice, lengthen it out. Or I could use my honeycomb stitch. Lots of fun stitches, so have a bit of a play. The thick thread gives you the feature that you're looking for. Okay? And it's all because of the extra strong thread. One word of warning, do not use the thick thread on your bobbin, because you will get a really bad tension result, and you do not need to use a thick thread in your bobbin. You can use ordinary thread even when you're hemming your jeans. So if you have a look now, this will all make a bit more sense. So I left the waistband on the skirt of this one, but I attached extra fabric because it would have been too narrow, and I used the waistband off another pair of jeans. I added my label on here, and then all I did here was I cut off my button off one of my pairs of jeans, and I roughly stitched around it, and then I used the end of my waistband as my tie. So it's really cool, it's really fun. And I do have to go out in the garden with my husband this afternoon, so maybe I will wear this and it will get its first go, although I kind of like it as a sewing apron. I'm not sure I want it to get dirty, but I just think these will be fun for the kids. So you can see, where have I put all of them? Oh, here. So I have got a whole lot ready to finish for my grandchildren, and I started them all. So that one's got that zip on, that pocket on, and it's ready to go. This one has got this pocket on and the jean shorts, and I've got the button ready for the tag. And this one, I've got my zigzag on my pockets and my pocket, and it had a rip in the jeans, so I'm going to utilize that and put a bit of fabric in the back of that for fun. And as you can see, I've got them all ready to roll. This one's a bit of fun. It's got a pocket that's got a weird shape to it, so that's going to be a bit of fun. So yeah, I'm going to finish them off for the kids, and there's their Christmas presents all done, and they can have a fun apron to do building or gardening or cooking with. So yeah, get ready for Christmas. So there you go. So I hope you've enjoyed Bernina Club, and I will see you in November. It's not far away.